Councillors, welcome to the July meeting of Council. The only councillors not in at the moment or in attendance or online is Councillor Edwards, and I'm sure he'll be joining us shortly. So, first of all, Councillor, I'd like to open the meeting with a prayer. Almighty God, be with us as we work for the people of the Shire of Moorabool. Grant us wisdom that we may care for the Shire as true stewards of your creation. May be aware of the great responsibilities placed upon us. Help us to be just in all our dealings, and may our work prosper for the good of all. Amen. I will now read out the acknowledgement of country. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we are meeting. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and the Aboriginal elders of other communities who may be here today. This meeting, councillors and everybody, this meeting is recorded in accordance with Council's meeting procedure law. The Council will be recording this meeting, and the following organisations have been granted permission to take an audio recording: the Moorabool News and the Star Weekly. We haven't heard any apologies, so I assume everyone is in attendance or coming along. No apologies. Item 6, confirmation of minutes. There are 3. There's the ordinary meeting of June 1, special council meeting of Wednesday, June the 15th, and the special council meeting of Wednesday, June the 22nd. Some councillor move that. Councillor Minari, Councillor Ward. I'll put that. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 7, councillors, disclosure of conflict of interest. Are there any on tonight's agenda, councillors? Okay, thank you. Item 8, public question time. We have 4 questions from 2 community members. The first 2 are for Rose de la Cruz, and I'll hand over to Mr Bezuidenhout to read out the questions and the response from Council. Mr Bezuidenhout, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, but we have it written, so...
Okay.
Yes, Mr Bezuidenhout.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll just read a question and the response. The first question: do the councillors believe we, the community nation, are in a transition moving out of fossil fuel use and into the use of renewable energy? Council response: Council is supportive of Australia's transition to renewable energy and recognises that new energy infrastructure is central to achieving this. However, of concern is the insufficient weight given to understanding and integrating community voice and environmental impacts from the outset of infrastructure planning, which threatens to undermine its delivery. The second question is a follow-up question. If so, do councillors agree that Council need to do all in its power to facilitate the transition to renewable energy? In response, it is understood that new renewable energy infrastructure is critical to Australia's transition to renewable energy as we work towards our climate change targets. Council continues to advocate for all levels of government to work together to enable investment in new renewable energy projects. However, it's critical that planning for and designing new infrastructure considers potential environmental impacts and community views and value at the earliest opportunity, while there is still capacity for the design response to adapt and facilitate locally appropriate development. Therefore, to facilitate the transition to renewable energy, Council is advocating for the development of a national and state policy for conducting and integrating community engagement findings when planning for and delivering renewable energy infrastructure projects. Second one, the federal and state governments to deliver more sustainable outcomes by introducing a policy that all future renewable energy projects will be required to investigate the lowest social, environmental and economic impact technologies and design options available.
Thank you,
Mr Mayor.
Councillors, any questions on the response or the questions? Okay, thank you for that. That information will be forwarded through to Ms de la Cruz. Yep. Thank you for that. She's in the gallery, but a written submission will be forwarded through. Thank you. The third question is from Mr John Kowalski. Mr Kowalski has 2 questions, and I'll hand over to Mr Ewan Nevitt to respond. Mr Nevitt, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. First question is, as per the approved Mill Park Master Plan at Balan, will Council please construct a pedestrian pathway along the north side of Simpson Street to support pedestrian access via Steed Street? Council's response is that the master plan includes many elements which are currently unfunded and will be prioritised with other projects in future budgets. This includes the pathway along the north side of Simpson Street. There's an existing shared pathway on the south side of Simpson Street which provides direct access to Steed Street. A pedestrian refuge providing access to the south side from Mill Park is included in the current project and will be constructed later in 2022. The second question is, as per the 2020 road safety audit for Mill Park, Ballan, will Council please construct a pedestrian refuge within the existing roundabout Splitter Island at Steed Street with connecting pram ramps? The response is, as per the above question, or the previous question, the pedestrian refuge within the existing roundabout is unfunded and does not form part of the current Mill Park upgrades.
Thank you, Mr Nevitt. Councillors, any questions of Mr Nevitt with respect to that matter? Okay, thank you. And again, those responses will be forwarded through to Mr Kurowski. Mr Nevitt? Thank you. Thank you for that. That ends public question time. Next item is item 9, petitions. Councillor Dudzik, you flagged something to me earlier.
Yes, I present a petition to Council on behalf of Michaela Johnston from Bacchus Marsh and the Rainbow Local Government team, and asking that it be tabled at the next Council meeting. The petition is to request that Moorabool Shire Council conduct community consultation on the draft flag flying policy presented to the April 2021 meeting of Council, including on the issue of flying the rainbow flag. And I have a petition of residents from Moorabool.
Thank you, Councillor Dudzik. As per Council's normal process on petitions, it'll be received and then a response will come back from officers, which is the norm for dealing with petitions. Thank you, Councillor Dudzik. I suppose I should ask councillors, and the others might have petitions there, but there's nothing on the business paper. So item 10, presentations and deputations. Mr CEO? None? Nil? Thank you. Councillor, item 11, 11.1 Community Asset Committees report, and there are a number there, and there's a recommendation on the bottom of page 8. Move, Councillor.
Mr Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Edwards, please.
Just moved, Mr Mayor.
Oh, sorry, you moved. Well, you said Councillor Ward was
Second then, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I'll put that. Any dissent? I'll put that all those in favour. Carried. Thank you. Item 11.2, delegated committees of council reports. And again, there are a number there of the activities of council over the last little while and a little before, by the look of it. Somebody prepared to move? Councillor Ward, Councillor Minari. I'll put that. All those in favour? It's carried. Thank you. Item 12, Community Grants Report, March 2022. There is a recommendation which actually refers to an attachment. So, and I know there was an alternate recommendation in circulation. So, councillors, please. Councillor Ward.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move the recommendation, please.
With the one that's there or the alternative one?
Sorry, not the alternate motion. I'd like to move the recommendation as per the officer's recommendation.
Councillors, clear what's going on?
Yeah, I'm happy to second that.
Okay. Is there any opposition? Sorry, councillors, I would seek leave and of council to speak against this, if I may, and ask the Deputy Mayor to come in and finish that part of the presentation, please. Thank you, councillors. It's a very difficult thing to actually do this, and basically it's because we're not following the adopted process or guidelines that we agreed upon some time ago. We are now trying to utilise funds out of other reserve funds in that particular community grants to supplement the ones, and they were very good projects, I'm not denying that, but it's process that I'm concerned about that we're not following, and it leaves us open to criticism for the fact that we just make decisions on the run. We have to get the policy right, in my view, before we actually start doing things like this. Now, I know they are all volunteer groups and do a great job. That is not what the issue is here. It's about the principle of utilising the policies that we have. So that's why when we take money out of one of the categories to supplement another, we're just trying to fit an outcome to what we want to do now, and I think that troubles me. So that's all I've got to say. They're all good projects, as I say. I do not have a problem with the projects themselves per se. It's the process by which this recommendation has been formed. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to speak in favour of the officer's recommendation that the amount recommended of $25,582.50 is approved. I do point out that all the grants recommended for approval did achieve or exceed the 70% of the criteria that Council decided was the benchmark. So all application, including the three that I suppose would be removed by the alternate motion, did exceed the 70%. So they meet our own requirements in terms of the criteria. I think the most important asset we have in the community is the volunteers, who are very passionate, and the work they do for the benefit of the community, and that is why the whole grants program was implemented in the first place. So the amount, I point out the amount recommended is $25,582, which is out of a total pool of $160,000 we had budgeted and which is available. So that's about 16% of the pool. So I'm very comfortable recommending that all grants be approved as per the recommendation. They all achieve the 70% of the criteria. It is significantly less than the amount we budgeted. Now, I do point out that in the guidelines, and they are only guidelines, we have approved that some 3 grants to be endorsed for approval, and as councillors we have the ability to make that approval, just as we do have the ability to amend or adjust budgets, and just as we have the ability, for example, to amend things that may not be against, that may not meet the requirements under our planning scheme, as another example. So I'm very comfortable recommending that officer's endorsement of the $25,582 and 50% for our grants, please.
As an objector, would you like to speak? Anyone wish to speak for or against? I can't.
True. The seconder can choose not to speak if they don't want to. So, yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Dudzik, you were the second. Did you wish to speak, please?
After reading the council officer recommendations, I believe that all the different community grants recommended are worthy projects, and I support them receiving grant funding. We do, as councillors, have the ability to change a recommendation, but in this case I would actually say that what has been put forward in the council report is a good recommendation. I do think we need to review our grants policy in the future because there was quite a bit of confusion about this round. And I would encourage all applicants who are unsuccessful for funding to rework their applications and please apply again next round, and more groups to apply for the next round. But yeah, I support this recommendation. They're all worthy grants and I'm behind it.
Thank you. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Tatchell, please.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. It's interesting, we've just had a debate about 2 different things. One is where it's been properly debated in terms of what the grants were awarded to in terms of their ability to reach the 70% mark, and the fact that they were, they're all very good, they're very good grants for the community, versus an argument against process, which ultimately should be the foundation of everything we do in here, because if you have the process and you stick to the process, it can't be tested. because you have something to back it up. And putting the horse back in front of the cart, I mean, it's all very well to say that we can change the policy, but you can't make a decision and then change the policy later. You generally have to make the policy so that you can make the decision. And in this particular case, we've got two completely separate arguments on the merits of what the grant money was given for, and then the process that we put in place. Now, we have no one to blame but ourselves in terms of the process, because if it's wrong, but if the process, and nobody's saying it is, but it could be. But if the process is wrong, and that's what the debate is, to say that, well, we'll just move things around, the reality is that we all agreed that would be the process, and that's how it became the process. So I think whilst the argument works both ways and both have merit, the reality is that the only way that you can protect yourself when you make a decision to move money around is by making sure that you actually stick to the process. Now, if the process needs to be changed, by all means, I mean, bring it back for amendment and we'll change it. But if, to actually make a decision prior to that, I think is foolhardy at best. And whilst I agree that all of the grant money should be given to those people that volunteer and do the wonderful things, the reality is we have a responsibility to our own process that we created. So, I mean, it's probably one of the most complicated decisions you've got to make, because both parties are correct. But the reality is the fact that both parties are correct means that the only thing you can rely on is the actual process that you delivered in the first place. So I have to agree with Councillor Sullivan on this one.
Thank you, Councillor Tatchell. Any other speakers for or against?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I'd like
Yes, Councillor Edward, please.
I'd like to speak for if I can. Look, clearly we're arguing over a process here, and I think we've had a number of discussions with officers on this particular policy and where we felt we may have fallen short. But the reality of this is that the projects, whilst they might have been in one criteria here that we are looking at potentially delaying until August, they have actually met the 72% as Councillor Ward pointed out. I do believe they would have fitted into the criteria for the Community Development Fund. So therefore, I believe based on those two things, and the other fact is that these planting days need to happen in spring. So if we did delay them till the next round of allocation of money, it would be too late. We know that if you're going to plant trees, you do it in the right time of the year. So therefore, based on, I think, better judgment overall, noting that we do need to clarify our policies and we do need to fix up some of these things, I think the right thing to do in this particular case is to allocate the grants as per the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Ward, do you want to close the debate, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I'll just reiterate what I said earlier. The criteria are guidelines, and Council has the ability to approve these grants. They're worthwhile grants that have achieved the minimum criteria, so I recommend that they be adopted. As I point out, there's only 16% of the pool available, and we can review the policy later on to clear up that ambiguity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Councillor Tatchell, please.
I just have a question, Mr Mayor.
Yes, please.
On the basis, look, I can't disagree right on that, but on the basis that it doesn't fit within the current policy, would it be prudent then to do it via a notice of motion? That way we achieve both things. We can approve the funding to good causes, and two, not break the policy, which would inevitably at least protect us from an outcome that might otherwise jeopardise us.
So you're proposing a notice of motion. Sorry, I'm just trying to...
On the grant approvals to the ones that don't fit within the process that we have in place, and the fact that we can't change it, as Councillor Edwards has said, that these need to be planted in the spring, it does fit within our genre to plant trees. What I'm suggesting is that if we've got a process that is fractured in terms of if we make a decision that it would be fractured, would it be more prudent to take them out of the grant system, put it up via a notice of motion for the same amount of money, and that way we break neither rule and both win.
I guess, Councillor, we have this recommendation here in front of us. That's the thing that we sort of have, and I understand where you're coming from, but I don't. It's not an amendment. It seems to be at odds to what this is actually saying. So I think maybe there might be a dot point that Council review the. It's too late over the debate anyway, so but perhaps we should have something like that. I don't think I can entertain that, Councillor, to be honest with you. I take your point. We do need to, and I think Councillor Ward acknowledged the fact we need to review and adapt our policy, but unfortunately that's just not what we're discussing here now. So, councillors, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? All those against? It is carried. Thank you. Next item of business, councillors, is item 13.1, Procurement Australia contract. There is a recommendation in two parts on page 17. Somebody, Councillor Tatchell, you're moving that? Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Edwards. Any questions? No. I'll put that. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Other reports? No other reports, Mr. CEO? No. Item 15, notice of motion. Councillors, this is a motion that I've asked to be brought forward to this council meeting, and so the motion is there. Somebody would move. Yes, Councillor.
I'd move it, but may I just ask a question, Mr. Mayor? You've been Council's representative on the regional waste management groups for some time, and you have an intimate knowledge of the role they formerly played and an understanding of the role the restructure will put in place across the state of Victoria. Could you please elaborate and give us some background on what is being proposed?
Basically, if I just step back, the rationale for this is, as of July this year, the 31st of June, all the current or former waste management groups were disbanded right across the state in all the regions. And this is the government is setting up a new Waste Act, which is coming into effect on the 1st of July. And as part of that, there's a lot of concern about the role of local government on that going forward. I and all the other forum chairs across the state representing the 79 municipalities have had informal meetings to sort of work out how do we sort of ensure that local government has a voice going forward. And as part of that process, we've chosen to sort of go back to our local government, go back to the roots of local government to get endorsement of the groups or similar type groups to the forum to go forward to be the conduit between government and local government. In our instance, with 12 municipalities across our region, which extends from Bacchus Marsh to West Wimmera and Hindmarsh up abutting the South Australian border, the 12-member councils have decided that we want to continue that sort of arrangement, a forum arrangement that currently exists into the future because it's working exceptionally well. It's been a great resource to officers particularly. There's a technical working group that has been associated with that forum since its beginning in 2014, and that has allowed the technical officers to come together to share ideas, processes, etc., and it's been invaluable to have that peer opportunity. So that's what this is about, and we sort of wanted to keep that going into the future and to ensure that in the new processes that local government does have a voice. So that's really the rationale. That's basically it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm more than happy to move that notice of motion as per the recommendation, and also to nominate yourself as Mirrabul Shire Council's representative on that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Is there a seconder for that, please?
I'll
Councillor?
second it.
Thank you, Councillor Dudzik. Is there any opposition? I'll put that. All those in favour? This carried. Thank you, councillors, and thank you for your endorsement for that position. Thank you very much. Item 16, notice of rescission. There are none, Mr. CEO. Item 17, Mayor's report. It has been circulated, so if there's no questions, somebody prepared to move that be accepted, please. Councillor Ward, Councillor Councillor Tatchell. Any opposition? I put that. All those in favour? It's carried. Councillor reports. I'll start on my left and go around and up on the screen and back. So, Councillor Ward, any councillor reports, please?
Nothing to report, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Minari, any councillor reports, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We've had a bit of a busy month, haven't we? I just want to note that the Hide and Seek Festival is running at the moment in our Shire, and I attended the one in Gordon on the weekend, and it was lovely to hear from some local talent in local venues, which was wonderful. I also attended the Blackwood and Coinjibora Storm book launch, which has been received with great, I wouldn't say excitement because it's not wasn't an exciting time at all, the storm 12 months ago, but it's something that we get to put on our bookshelf and never forget about, and it's something that will always be a little bit, not very nice memories, but something that we'll learn from and take forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Minari. I must say that the Blackwood book launch and also the one at Coinji were very well received, as Councillor Minari said, by the community. And I really like to compliment the council staff for the phenomenal amount of work they did in getting that organised, and it was really appreciated by the community, I can assure you. And it was a very good meal. The caterers were actually excellent, so I commend them. So thank you very much. Councillor Tatchell, any councillor reports, please?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. With your indulgence, if I could just acknowledge the passing of Jane Garrett. I think it's been an incredibly tough week for her family, obviously, and the member, she was a member for emergency services some years ago here, and having spent a lot of time with Jane in terms with the Scottsburn fires and the difficulty we had in trying to get people to acknowledge the problems in Moorabool with the fires compared to Wye River, and the work that Jane put in post that in terms of when Fiskville was closed, and Jane went into bat for us in terms of making sure that the training facility remained in Moorabool. Jane paid a heavy price for her views, and I kept in touch with Jane over all these years, and an extraordinary woman. To be taken at 49 to breast cancer is absolutely incredulous. And when we consider that for a number of years Jane was in remission and fighting the good fight in the upper house in the Gippsland region, and doing exactly the same hard-headed fight for those rural people in that area that she'd given us at Moorabool, and anyone that had spent a limited amount of time with Jane, she was infectious. It wasn't just her ability to smile and light up a room, but the toughness in order to go into bat for things that weren't just important, but things that were non-political in terms of her party preferences, her bravery in standing up for the things that she believed in, the enormous affection she showed for Moorabool at a time when we were probably put on the back burner and probably not being considered. And she done a great service in consideration that she wasn't our local member, but she kept in touch, and she monitored Moorabool, and I'd often receive complimentary emails about the work that Moorabool was doing, and I'm deeply saddened to we often complain about politicians, but I've got to say there are some very, very genuine people that walk through the hallways of Spring Street for all the right reasons when they begin, and for all the right reasons when they leave. And I'd just like to say that Janie Garrett was one of those people that I think is a great loss, not just to her party, to the Parliament, but I think to Victorians in general, she really was a very, very special person, and it's incredibly sad. So I'd pass on the condolences to her 3 children and her husband, and I just, with your indulgence, Mr. Mayor, I just thought, you know, as soon as I heard, the first thing I thought about is the work she did for Mirrabel, and what a wonderful person she was. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tatchell. I'm sure all of us here would express our condolences to her family. It's a young person. Thank you. Councillor Berry, please, any councillor reports?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure it's going to be very clear, but I attended on the 4th of June with Mr. Mayor the Peter Carey Short Story Awards, which was fantastic. A lot of budding writers out there, just absolutely brilliant for our region. And the 23rd of June, the Service Recognition Function for Age and Disability Support Services. It was a lovely afternoon to recognise all those workers that have worked in aged services. In one lady in particular, working 40 years in the aged care area, was just an amazing effort. That's all, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, apologise for my voice, councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Berry, and please just spare your voice as you're struggling there with laryngitis, so thank you for giving your report. Councillor Edwards, please. Any reports?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to say last Friday I attended the MAV annual meeting where Mirrabel had 2 motions put forward in relation to the power lines. The first one was to have a look at getting the state government and the federal government to put in some guidelines around the implementation of power lines. The second one was about community consultation. I'd like to state that categorically we were unanimous with the support of both of those motions that Mirrabel put forward, which I think is a really good outcome and sends a really clear message to the government. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards, and thank you for your advocacy, given that I had to attend another meeting that same day, so thank you very much for that. Councillor Dudzik, any councillor reports, please?
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Councillors, the next item of business, urgent business. I'll go around the same order. Councillor Ward, any urgent business, please?
I did have Mr. Mayor, but I can't put my hands on it.
Well, we might just keep going. And then
yeah, thank you.
Councillor Minogue, any urgent business, please?
No urgent business.
Thank you. Councillor Tatchell.
It may not be urgent business, but I'll just bring it up anyway, because I think it's one of your favourite things, unintended consequences. Mr. Mayor, I think it's the first thing you said to me 10 years ago. We have some unintended consequences. With the shutting down of the aged care, what has come to my attention this afternoon is that the senior cits in Balan that meet on a Friday for lunch, they were serviced by the hospital. I think it was organised by us. When they arrived last Friday, there was no food available to them, and apparently the hospital doesn't do it anymore. Now, you'd think, oh, well, that's a one-off, but after talking to them today, they used to pay a subsidised fee for this luncheon, and when they tried to organise another contractor to come in to provide the food, there's about 35 aged people that come to this luncheon on a Friday. They had a budget of $8, that was the lunch, and the cheapest they could get was 20, and there was a number of elderly people that couldn't attend the next one because they can't afford the $20. And I think this is, when we talk about mental health and getting people out of their houses and reverting to normal life, if we don't look after the senior cits as well, the elderly, the last thing we need is for them to be in a situation where they can't afford to go to these once-a-week outings. So, Mr. Mayor, I don't know how we solve this.
Well, is it a question perhaps Mr. Gardner might be able to look into it and sort of respond, just take it on notice. If Mr. Gardner was okay with it, all the detail and find out exactly what has transpired there and what we may be able to help, rather than moving a motion. Is that satisfactory to you, Councillor?
Oh, yeah, I wasn't intending to move a motion,
Okay.
Mr Mayor.
Gardner, would you perhaps liaise with Councillor Tatchell on that, please? Thank you.
I know we can't do anything till by Friday,
Yeah.
but I suppose if there's a way to resolve it through a state government grant or whatever to make up the shortfall, but it is it's a large amount of money.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. I understand your
thank you.
concern as well. Councillor Berry, any urgent business?
No, Mr Mayor, only to say I think similar's been happening in what Councillor Tatchell was addressing for the elderly citizens in Bacchus Marsh too.
Well, perhaps Mr Gardner might sort of look at that as well. Obviously, if it is happening in both sites, perhaps I need to follow that through. So thank you for that. Councillor Edwards, any urgent business, please?
Not a motion, Mr Mayor, just a question.
Yes.
Back in March, I raised a motion to have a look at the flooding in Fiskin Street and Geelong Road at the properties up there, and also the truck breaking and some of that have been removed. I just hadn't heard anything. I was wondering if we have any further information on that.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Mr Hewitt, you aware of that, Mr Hewitt?
No, I can't add anything to that, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we'll just perhaps follow it up if that's
Yeah,
okay.
follow up.
Thank you, Councillor. No further urgent business?
No,
Okay.
Mr Mayor.
Councillor Dudzik, any urgent business, please?
I did hear that the Bacchus Marsh meals were stopped also, and I haven't heard any explanation as to why, so I would like an answer on that. Apart from that, no urgent business.
Thank you. Well, obviously that's in hand anyway, raised by Councillor Tatchell and Councillor Berry, and also noted by yourself, so that'll be followed through. Now, going back to Councillor Ward, who did have earlier on, but mislaid that.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, for your patience. I have found it. I'd like to move and notice a motion that Council authorises the CEO to submit applications to the Growing Suburbs Fund for 2 projects identified as part of its advocacy documentation. The 2 projects are the Community Pavilion at Bacchus Marsh Racecourse to Reserve to service the growing population of Mattingley, and that Growing Suburbs Fund funding requested will be $3,229,928. And the second application is for the Aqualink activity nodes, which provide play equipment along the walking paths currently under construction. And the amount requested for that application will be $671,470.25.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. As per Council's local law, now that you've actually indicated what the matters are, and they have to go past the threshold, councils have to agree to accept it. So that's the first thing. So I have to put it to councils. Are you prepared to receive those matters noted by Councillor Ward?
Yes, I am.
I'll put all those in favour. Okay. Now, Councillor Ward, please. If you wish to move the motion.
Yes, I move that motion, Mr Mayor, please.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Is there any dissent? I'll put that. All those in favour? It's carried. Thank you. No other urgent business, Councillor Ward?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you for that. The next item of business is item 20, which is a closed session of council. So, with council's indulgence, I would say give us a 5-minute break, and then the chamber will clear, and we'll go back into